Let's tank Mistress Sassz'ine in the Tomb of Sargeras on normal and heroic difficulty. Now this fight is a 3-phase fight, with the mechanics being around soaking and killing some eel lads, and then dodging a lot of crazy mechanics. The fight's not too hard so long as you get the soaking down, and you keep on top of the mechanics, and watch for tornado timers. So let's begin by looking at the abilities that the boss is going to use in every phase, and then we're going to look at each phase individually. So the main ability that the boss is going to do is cast an ability on the tank currently tanking it called Burden of Pain, and what this is going to do, it's going to cause shadow damage every second to that tank, as well as mimic all physical damage done to this tank to the rest of the raid. So obviously you don't want the tank tanking the boss, so you pretty much don't want this tank to be taking any extra damage, and you want to do a tank swap at this point. It's a very good idea to taunt while the cast is going out, as the debuff applied at the end of the cast, but it's applied to the person tanking the boss at the start of the cast. So make sure you taunt during, before the debuff goes out, and this will reduce as much raid damage as possible that this ability can possibly do. It's also noting that you don't want to be soaking Hydra shots with this ability. You pretty much don't want to be doing anything. You can help tank the heals if needed, but again, it's probably better just to keep them on their main tank. Even though the heals are doing shadow damage, it just makes it a bit easier just to keep everything clumped up on the boss for cleave damage. Now the next ability you need to be wary of is Hydra Shot, and what this is going to do, it's going to mark players for a piercing Hydra Shot. After 6 seconds, each arrow inflicts 6.5 million physical damage to all targets up to that player, split among those struck. Each player struck also gains a stack of Hydra Acid, and what Hydra Acid is, covers a target inflicting 380,000 nature damage every 1 second for 6 seconds. This effect stacks and stuns for 6 seconds upon reaching 2 or more stacks. So basically what you want to do with the Hydra shots is the green lines between players. On heroic there's 3 of them, on normal I believe there's 1. You want these players to run far out and spread, so that you can see where they are. You don't want them to move, and you don't want to really be moving the boss whenever Hydra shots are out, because this can make soaking the Hydra shot pretty difficult. And what you want to do is split your raid. You can either do this by assigning it, or just letting people use the common sense and spreading them out themselves, which we went with the second option. We found it a lot easier for the later phases, that's why we did this. And you want to have as many players, pretty much your whole raid, soaking these, so there's as little damage going out on single players as possible. And Hydra Acid, you only really need to worry about, say the players don't spread out and 2 are stacked up, then players soaking these 2 are going to get stunned. So this pretty much just means that you can't stack 3 players up at one spot, and you can't have your whole raid soak 3 beams in one. And that's all that ability is trying to do, is stop you from doing that, and to make the fight a little bit harder. Apart from that, just make sure you're soaking, and the tank with Burden of Pain is not soaking, and you should be pretty good on this ability. And the final ability that the boss will do throughout the fight is called From the Abyss, and what this is going to do is summon 3 eels. Now these eels have a few abilities. What they're going to be doing is casting a lot, and these need interrupting, stun locking, and it'll make them teleport to random players, and then hit them with the ability Jaws from the Deep. And what this is going to do, it's going to inflict 400k shadow damage immediately, and an additional 350 shadow damage every 1 second for 4 seconds. So it's just extra damage you don't really want to go out, and they'll be casting a lot, so they need pretty much stun locking and killing off, but you don't want to kill them too quickly. They need to die within about 5 seconds of the tornadoes coming out, if you've got tornadoes coming out before another set of eels is actually spawning. Now upon death, these eels are going to drop Concealing Murk, and what this does, it's going to release a cloud of Concealing Murk for 20 seconds. Players within the cloud suffer 400k shadow damage every 2 seconds, and have their hit chance reduced by 75%. And what also this Merc does is it'll despawn any tornadoes that cross over it. So you definitely need this Merc down, because on a heroic it's a full wall across, and the dot that the tornadoes actually leave on players is pretty much only going to be survivable with personal cooldowns and healing cooldowns. So you really don't want players getting hit by the tornadoes at all, and you want to be using this cloud to the best of your ability. And that's pretty much it for the reoccurring abilities throughout the fight. Now in phase 1, what you want to be watching out for is Thundering Shock, which is basically eels that come up from beneath you. I believe they spawn on players, and they're going to have like blue circles around these players. You just need to get out of it. If you don't get hit by this, it's going to stun you. And then the other thing in phase 1 is the Murlocs, which spawn on random players, but they do have an aggro table, so you can throw a few abilities on them. And these can also be knocked off by the Thundering Shock that I've just talked about. Now, apart from that, you just need to watch out for the abilities I just went over before going into phase 1, which is the Hydra Shot, the Eels, and the Slicing Tornadoes, as well as making sure you're doing the Burden of Pain correctly. Now, for phase 2, you need to watch out for the ability Beacon of Saracle. Now, what this does is, at one side of the room, it's going to have 2 circles spawn from it, or I should say semicircles, and you want to be picking up the isles that are going to be spawning around the room, and you have to chuck 3 into its mouth. Now, you don't want to go into the innermost circle as you'll get eaten by it, but you want to go into the outside circle and just run in with the oil, throw 3 in, and it'll just disappear. It's pretty easy to handle. You just need to make sure everyone's attempting to do it. Now, as for the oil, what's going to happen is Oceanet's going to spray ink clouds about, sticking to players who enter them. Ink clouds inflict 450,000 shadow damage every 2 seconds and reduce movement speed by 25%. And as I just said, you just need to only be picking these up really to either clear rooms that you want to be tanking the boss in, which is mainly for the last phase, or throwing them into the mouth of the Sorrow ad. Now, the other ad you need to worry about in this phase is Velus, and what the boss will do is cast Crashing Wave. And when she does this, she's going to take up the center of the room all the way across it, and a big like watery path will start to spawn. You just need to run out of this and go to one side of the room. Doesn't really matter, just make sure you're out of it or it's pretty much going to kill you. And apart from these abilities, once again, you need to handle the eels, handle the tank debuff, and handle Hydra shots. So now let's have a look at the final phase. So in this phase, you're going to be getting the oils, but now you won't be getting the ad that eats them, so you've basically got to have players soak them to clear as much of the room out as possible. You're going to still get Call Velus, which takes up the center of the room, and you just need to get out of it. You're going to get the Murlocs back from phase 1, and you're going to get tornadoes. So basically, this is pretty much the DPS race. You don't want the room getting covered in oils. So I highly recommend Bloodlusting at this point. And apart from that, just make sure you're killing the eels just before tornadoes are going out. You're getting out the center of the room so you don't get hit by Velus. And you handle the Murlocs. Apart from that, that's pretty much it. It's a pretty simple fight once you get the basics down. This fight's only real challenge is making sure the eels die in a timely manner. They don't die too quick and they don't die too slow when the tornadoes come out. And apart from that, the rest of the fight's just dodging abilities. Anyway guys, I hope this guide helps you get the kill. Please like, comment and sub for more videos.